Here, I'm going to tell you the truth. What happened was that Chuy Toño had control over all the police forces in Sinaloa. Not sure if you know, but in some parts of Mexico, the single command was implemented, where one person coordinated the state investigative and municipal police of their states. Well, in Sinaloa, that strategy was implemented, not officially, but just verbally. But Governor Mario Lopez Valdez put Chuy Toño in charge of all the police corporations in Sinaloa, municipal, ministerial, and state. And remember that Pocha sent a letter to El Licenciado saying not to trust Commander Chuy Toño because he was disrespectful. And he did whatever he wanted and interfered with Pocha's business people. But well, Chuy Toño had sent a commander to the Mazatlan Municipal Police with the exact and clear orders to move forward with everything. For two reasons. The first being there was conflict in Mazatlan, and it's a tourist area, and that's why they were acting with a firm hand. And the second, it was that Chuy Toño never looked good to El Licenciado, since they had known each other since the 90s and in the judicial police because El Licenciado had been part of the judicial police, also as a commander and afterwards. And from there, Chuy Toño never saw him well because Licenciado moved to another scene in the realm of Ocran. And there was always a rivalry there because Chuy Toño didn't like taking orders from anyone, only from Yoma. But the reason of the problem, I'll tell you about that in another episode. That problem started with Chuy Toño. But don't think that Chuy Toño was acting only against Licenciado. No, he was also acting against the menores and, in fact, during those years a plan was made to have Chuy Toño resign. But it didn't happen because, as I've told you, he was one of the strongest arms of Yoma. And that's why the decision was made to take that plan to the side and talk directly with him. And so it was done. A meeting was held and Chuy Toño's rules were read in front of Yoma. I'll tell you that story in another episode because it's really interesting. Well, my friends, so that's the reason why Commander Chuy Toño ordered that cell of the Artolado to be locked up. And as I say it, among them was Don Camilo. If you look up the news, you're going to find that. The one who was presented as the leader is the Artolado. But as you know, Camilo says he was the supreme boss, and he commanded all those guys, which, as I already told you, is a lie. Camilo says that when he was imprisoned, El Licenciado immediately ordered him to be taken out, because he was the brain, the one in charge of the operation and the boss of Mazatlan, and that he was the only one to be taken out, that the other guys had to stay in the prison. Well, that's another lie. The one who organized that was Javi. And the reason he got Camilo out, it's supposedly because Camilo had nothing to do with the man gun. So it turns out Junior Camilo was a good guy who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time with the Ganmun boys. And Javi, he told the guys, you know, you are involved, well, no choice but to hold on for now and then find a way to get you out. But the poor Camilo, that he supposedly wasn't equipped and didn't even carry a weapon because it wasn't fair for him to be locked up if he wasn't supposed to be out there with the other boys. And later, it was known that Camilo really enjoyed playing Sicario with the boys, and that he wasn't just another junior, but he loved being in the heat. But what do you think Camilo says? He says that he, being in prison as he was the leader and the boss, he says he would leave the prison area to conduct operations and raid houses and all that. And he went back. Look at this video that I will show you so you can see the nonsense he says.
Yo antes de estar preso, esta vez que duré 7 años, estuve preso anteriormente en Mazatlan, donde duré 3 semanas, salí 2 veces también a reventar. ¿Qué entiendes? Se quedaron todos los muchachos míos ahí, esa vez. Si tú pones mi nombre verdadero, ahí te aparece la primera captura. Y esa vez sí salí 2 veces a reventar. ¿Por qué? Porque estaba controlado, traía más Mazatlan yo en ese momento y pues había más poder. Vete, nomás regresa sin ningún rozón, sin ningún nada y todo bien, ¿sí entiendes?
Sí.
How's that, Camilo? He came and went as he pleased. The guards and the prison director just kindly asked him not to come back, neither hit or with any bruises. Oh, Camilo does not measure what he says. We continue with Camilo's stories. Well, he says some boys from the Investigate police got him, and supposedly Camilo called Javi to tell him they weren't respecting the organization. And Javi told him not to worry, to pick up some other guys, because you could say that the guys are disposable. And here I want to make it clear, Camilo. He always says that he was the one reaching out to El Licenciado. No, Camilo never had communication with El Licenciado or his secretary. As I've told you, Camilo only dealt with Javi. Well, according to Camilo, what Javi told him that the boys were disposable, which of course is a lie because they're never going to tell someone from their own organization that people are disposable. What would that person think of you? They'd say, come on, to you, we're all just disposable. Well, then it's totally pointless to be with you, that's just illogical. But you can see how Camilo's inventions are. Now to the point, Camilo says that was what triggered it. And that's why he chose to leave the organization led by El Licenciado. Well, now he mentions that in a video he just released last month. But in all the interviews he gave at the beginning of his career as a YouTuber, he always said that he parted ways with the Licenciado, because El Licenciado started betraying the menores. So what was it? You have to choose one? Was it for one thing or was it for another? His narrative is always the same. El Licenciado betrayed the menores because, according to him, El Licenciado ordered, start beating up the menores people and blame those from Tepic, which at that time was H2, meaning Chico. Well, here I'm going to show you a short video of when Camilo was with the journalist Adela Micha, so you can understand what I'm talking about.
Empieza a dar órdenes de que Mazatlán estaban los hijos del Chapo y estaba Damaso. Yo con los
pero
hijos del
Damaso
Chapo
era
gente del Chapo.
Pues era gente del Chapo.
Sí, pero es cuando empezó a traicionar.
Es el que le ayuda a salir de la cárcel.
La primera vez.
La primera vez, sí. Claro.
Pero empieza a traicionarlo. Lo empieza a traicionar. A mí me dice que empieza a levantar gente de Iván, del hijo del Chapo. Empieza a levantar a fulano tal. Y yo, no, ¿cómo? O sea, son los hijos del bueno. No. O sea, muchas cosas que no me gustaron.
Seguía siendo el patrón el Chapo, ¿no?
Sí, pero ya estaba en la cárcel.
Ya estaba en la cárcel.
Entonces, yo le digo que no, ya no me estaba gustando la forma de operar de él. Yo ya estaba viendo, ya había traicionado a mucha gente. La misma gente que traía Damaso, los empezó a matar. Entonces, cuando a mí me dice que empieza a levantar gente de Iván y todo eso, y que le echara la culpa al otro cartel, yo dije, no mames, o sea, va para traición.
O sea, el otro cartel es el de los hijos del Chapo.
No.
¿A cuál cartel que le echaras
en ese
la
entonces,
culpa?
Damaso no quería que se enterara que estaba haciendo eso los hijos del Chapo. Que le echara la culpa al cartel de Tepic.
Ya.
Well, you've seen it. There that supposedly El Licenciado started to betray the Pocha. Explain to me how he was betraying him if at that time El Licenciado was helping him organizing the escape, and Licenciado was the one in control, and was paying the payroll of the Altiplano so they would treat his compadre well. And he also says that El Licenciado ordered Camilo directly to start taking Ivan's people. Camilo, if you were nothing, you weren't a boss nor did you have power. How come you were in charge of that? That's a complete lie. Besides, at that time, things between Licenciado and the menores were fine. As he always say, El Licenciado betrayed everyone, but everyone has realized that those who always betray are the ones you praise, the menores. And Camilo, what a coincidence. You used the same lie that Rene used in Baja California Sur, that the lawyer had betrayed Pocha, when in fact it's the other way around. Rene and Choncas betrayed Licenciado. Now see what this liar says.
Me dice, te puede ser que interesa Mazatlán, te vas tú a agarrar Mazatlán. Vete como cabeza, como líder, para que coordines y tú digas quiénes son, o sea, la gente contraria. Me voy, pero pues me gustaba ir por delante a mí. Entonces me vuelve a hablar y me dice, no vayas por delante a ti, si te matan, tú eres el cerebro, va a acabar. Y así, o sea, me valía madre y lo volví a hacer. Que el día que me agarraron, ya Mazatlan, pues ya casi lo tenía yo todo.
O sea, eras conocido, digamos.
Sí.
¿Eres conocido entre el
Mazatlan,
cártel?
Sí, me conozco.
El cártel de Sinaloa,
Sí,
digamos.
sí, pues es que trabajé con ellos, o sea, conozco mucha gente. No menciono nombres. No.
Entonces tú eras el líder de un cartel.
Sí, prácticamente yo tenía mi cartel, o sea, yo tenía mi gente.
Ok.
The licenciado tells him to go to Mazatlan as a leader, that he's the brain, and then also says that later on, when he was supposedly against licenciado, and he almost had total control over Mazatlan. And then also mentions he's well-known, famous, and has his own car. Realize all the lies he tells, and there's even more. Check this out.
Tu rango en lo que te dedicabas, lo que hacías, ¿no? ¿Qué eras tú? ¿Eras sicario?
No, yo estuve encargado. Yo me dedicaba antes a pura finanza, güey. Cuando me ofrecen Mazatlán, me ofrecen que vaya a coordinar como cabeza. Y a mí me gustó, o sea, yo a la hora que se iba a reventar algo, pues yo iba de frente, güey. Y pues,
¿Cómo?
O sea, a mí me gustaba ir de frente.
Sí, pero ¿cómo que reventar algo? ¿A
reventar una casa, güey, donde había, que se andaban queriendo meter enemigos y así, pues, ¿entiendes?
Uh-huh.
Entonces a mí me gustaba ir de frente.
O sea, tú andabas armado y todo.
Sí, estaba encargado de ahí de Mazatlán. Traía mucha gente a mi mando.
¿Eres como un jefe de plaza?
Se podría decir.
Uh-huh.
Pero, pues, pura quemazón todo eso. No podía comer a gusto en un restaurante, güey, con mi familia. Por eso te digo, todo lo que me pasó sin necesidad de vivir eso, pues, porque no era necesidad de eso, sino porque se me van abriendo las puertas a mí solo, güey. Y me gusta la adrenalina y le entro, o sea, me gustaban los chingazos, todo eso. Y a raíz de eso, pues me quemo yo, güey, pero no, o sea.
What do you think? When he was going to raid a house, he was in the front, he led the way, and he was well known by many people. Feel sorry for him. He couldn't even enjoy a restaurant with his family. Camilo, cut it out. Absolutely no one knew you.
Cada pinches 3 días cambiarme de casa porque me hablaban, a nosotros nos avisaban gente de la base militar de Mazatlán. O sea, había unos guachitos que coordinaban las salidas de las camionetas cuando los guachos iban a ir a reventar una casa. Entonces a mí me avisaban, oiga, tal dirección, ¿sabe de quién es? Y yo, ¿por qué? Porque ahí va un convoy a reventar ahorita. Tienen datos de que hay gente ahí. Puta madre de volada, le decía yo a mi mujer, agarren las cosas y a los muchachos míos, vámonos a la verga. En cuanto íbamos saliendo, güey, venía todo el ejército, güey. O sea, varias veces, pues, ya no dormía a gusto, güey, ya no dormía tranquilo. Yo cuando estaba en Mazatlán, güey, todas mis oficinas, güey, la gente vivía como vivía yo. Si yo comía sirloin, güey, o comía ribeye, güey, todas mis oficinas comían lo mismo, güey, les daba calidad de vida. ¿Por qué? Porque las oficinas mías, güey, estaban en zonas de clase media, de clase media para arriba, güey.
¿Una oficina es una casa de seguridad?
Una casa de seguridad, güey.
Okay. ¿Y una casa de seguridad cómo se conforma? ¿De cuánta gente?
Yo tenía 6 en cada casa.
6 sicarios.
6 sicarios.
Ok.
Que era, pues, o sea, éramos los que estábamos cuidando, pues. Cuidábamos. Yo tenía 10 casas, güey, de seguridad. Tenía 60 casas. Mira que el día que...
Come on. Every 3 days he had to change houses. Luckily, the military warned him when they were about to bust. And well, he had 10 offices, 60 guys under his command. Well, Camilo was strong and very smart since absolutely no one knew him. Well, you know the boss, Camilo. He definitely saw that El Licenciado was a traitor, and he thought it was best to give Mazatlan back to Licenciado. But then El Licenciado gets upset. As Camilo was going to give Mazatlan to him, he didn't like that at all. And according to Camilo, El Licenciado tried to resign him. Well, this is the fictional version that Camilo tells. Now I'm going to tell you the reality. Camilo couldn't achieve the goal he had. Well, in fact, the only mission he had was to set up Chancas, so... What does Camilo do? He pretends to be resigned and disappears. Obviously, he doesn't hand anything over because he had nothing. And what he does is flip sides and leaves with choncas, and those from Tepic, Chico, and them. In El Licenciado's organization, everyone believed that Camilo had disappeared because there was no trace of him. But the reality, it was something else. Camilo had switched sides. When they realize that the crazy chicken is still alive, that's when they arrest him. Well, Camilo in his story says that he confronted El Licenciado. That never happened. It never went down like that. What Camilo did was switch sides. He went over to those from Tepic. That was it. And it only lasted about 2 months, I think. I don't know exactly how long. Here it says in this video.
Me apoyaron en su momento cuando empiezo a pelear contra Damaso. Me apoyan ellos y también escuchaba de los...
All right. Well, after that, the local police arrested him on August 7th, 2015. Here's a video where he tells the story of that day.
En ese momento la policía municipal le pagaba a la municipal, le pagaba a la ministerial y al estatal, y los municipales me entregaban a los ministeriales.
El municipal lo terminó haciendo. Sí. Ya ni la Marina.
No, la Marina es la que más me cuidaba.
Dirían por ahí, el peor traidor es el policía municipal.
Sí.
Es el que se vende por unas migajas.
Sí, el municipal realmente. Tienen, o sea, el ejército y la Marina tienen un poquito más de respeto y de valores que el municipal, la verdad.
So there he says it. The municipal police stopped him, or rather, the municipal police betrayed him, those traitorous municipals. I don't know how they dare to take him out of the car if Boss Camilo told them he was at war. Here I show you the photo of when they detained him that day. Well, he says that the municipals handed him over to the state police. And he talked to the commander Zaharopoulos, a friend of El Licenciado. He says he was going to be resigned. But from Mexico City, they said he had to be presented. That's just another lie. Since if it had been intended to resign Camilo, Zaharopoulos would have done it immediately. But he always trying to act like he is so important. He likes to say that, but oh well later. He says that because of his prominent surname, he was taken to the Mazatlan prison, and that upon arrival there, they also wanted to give him the resignation. And that's why they had to put him in the women's area. I'll tell how things actually happened. By the time Camilo got to the prison, he immediately started making a scene and shouting about who his family was, saying he had a lot of political power, and that he had many, many relationships. That he had to be protected because they wanted to give him the resignation there, because otherwise heads were going to roll, that his family was very, very important, and that he knew that inside of that prison there were people who wanted to harm him. He made a complete fuss so they wouldn't put him in the area in the prison there with the men, and with that fuss he made. Obviously it worked for him. He was terrified, and the officials agreed to place him in the women's area. That's when everyone realized the crazy chicken was alive. And they began to investigate. That's when they realized that for sure he indeed switched sides. Camilo also mentions that they grabbed his wife outside the prison, that Licenciado ordered it. Camilo, here you go. I don't know if what you're saying is true or false, but Licenciado did not order that. I looked into it, and that was never ordered. That's false. That thing you mention. But okay, it doesn't matter, because we know what you're trying to do is discredit Licenciado and speak ill of him. Showing him as garbage, as a traitor, which is the worst, so there's no problem. Well, he only lasted 3 months in that prison, and here's what he says.
Caí, cuando caigo, pues yo también tenía poder y la gente también ya me conocía ahí, y en ese momento tenía mucha gente afuera. Y pues yo también amenazo al director y al comandante. Me hacen algo y en ese momento mi gente ya tiene órdenes para que se los chinguen a ustedes. Y yo sé dónde vive tu familia, dónde vive. O sea, tuve que hacer eso. Entonces me ponen en el penal femenil 3 meses. A los 3 meses estaba en el penal femenil yo. Imagínense, pues caí en la gloria, puras mujeres. Y a los 3 meses llegan 53 camionetas. Me dice la gente, ¿cómo sabes que 53 camionetas? Yo tenía punteros afuera que me avisaban todo lo que pasaba. ¿Se entiende?
Claro.
Me avisan, oiga, van 53 camionetas. Yo pensé que iba a haber esculque en el penal y no, iban por mí. De ahí me trasladan a Los Mochis, Sinaloa, y en Los Mochis, Sinaloa llegué y me dieron todas las atenciones. Gracias a un señor que respeto mucho y que admiro también y que estoy muy agradecido con él, me dieron todas las atenciones.
Well, you heard it. How did he manage to get placed in the women's area by threatening that he had a lot of people? Which, as I've already told you, that's a lie. You heard what he said, that 53 trucks came for him. Imagine that madness. I mean, when I saw the videos, when they were moving Raton or Nini or Rafa, I never saw so many trucks. But for the boss Camilo, yes. Which obviously, I imagine he was on another level, way above those mere dogs. Well, when he gets to Los Mochis, as always, Don Camilo asking to be respected for the level of boss he was. Here I show you what he says.
Y a los 3 meses llegan 53 camionetas. Me dice la gente, ¿cómo sabes que 53 camionetas? Yo tenía punteros afuera que me avisaban todo lo que pasaba. ¿Sí entiendes?
Claro.
Me avisan, oiga, van 53 camionetas. Yo pensé que iba a haber esculque en el penal y no, iban por mí. De ahí me trasladan a Los Mochis, Sinaloa, y en Los Mochis, Sinaloa llegué y me dieron todas las atenciones. Gracias a un señor que respeto mucho y que admiro también y que estoy muy agradecido con él, me dieron todas las atenciones.
¿No fue de máxima seguridad?
No. Entonces ya ahí me amparé y todo eso para que ya no me movieran. Y pues también tenías que amenazar para que no te movieran.
¿De qué forma lo hacías?
Pues que si a mí me volaban a un penal, pues la última llamada que iba a hacer es... Tratas de intimidar para poder tener un control y que la gente no te mueva. ¿Por qué? Porque la gente quiere abusar de ti. Entonces, para ganarte un respeto también tienes que demostrar que te respeten. Tú respeta, pero también que te respeten.
Y esa forma se gana con miedo.
No con miedo, pero sí con carácter, yo me imagino, ¿no?
Pero al final de cuentas les inculcabas miedo de que me pasa, te
sí,
vuelo aquí a
porque
tu familia.
yo soy muy bueno, o sea, yo podré ser la mejor persona del mundo, pero pues, o sea, trata de hacerme daño a mí, a mi familia, o trata de pasarte de lanza, de no cumplir cosas de que te traicionen. Entonces, sí, quieren respeto, respétenme.
Well, yes, according to Camilo, he also arrived threatening the other prison, and he confuses fear with respect a bit. What you're saying, Camilo, is scaring people. It's not about being respected. You know that here we help you understand the meaning of the words, and well, the person who he says that supported him and gave him the attention there in Los Mochis, it was Isidro, the boss of Guasave. And once again, Camilo says he arrived and he was the one controlling the whole prison, appointing and removing people at will. Well, what people who were in that prison and met him there have told me is that it's totally a lie. That yes, he gave away a lot of money, but to the extent of controlling it? No, he didn't control it. He says he gave cars and houses to all the guys under his command, and that he also gave houses to guards in the prison. Well, that's wonderful, Camilo. And well, it says that he left the prison with a new life, now just to do good and stay away from everything bad. And how great! I'm happy for him. He also mentions that he's not afraid of the American government. Here's what he says.
Por lo que me comprobaron y todo eso.
¿Y no crees que en este momento el hecho de que ya te has hecho una figura pública pongas como especial atención al gobierno vecino como la DEA?
No, porque nunca trafiqué para Estados Unidos.
Todo fue interno.
Todo fue interno.
¿Y no te da ese miedo de que el día de mañana te quieran meter algo nuevo?
Pues no hay que me van a comprobar. O sea, para poderte juzgar te tienen que comprobar. De modo que hoy llegue alguien y diga, este dijo que traficaba. Una cosa es lo que yo diga, otra cosa es lo que me comprueben.
Well, he said it in this and other interviews that, well, he has no problems. Look, Camilo, what this is about is helping you. I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Stop saying in public what you used to do, because you've said things, and that I didn't even want to bring up. In here, those video snippets, but you know what you said. And what you're talking about is called conspiracy. And here I'm going to give you a lesson from what you've said about getting weapons in the United States and taking them to Mexico. And those tools were used by the organizations. Well, Camilo, that's a conspiracy. and it's a crime. And that offense is called tool contraband. He also said that he was moving merchandise from Colombia or those places and you took it to Mexico. Let me tell you, Camilo, you don't need to move. Not even a single Loki to the United States. What you are doing is a conspiracy, even if you only sell it in Mexico. You know, in other interviews, you've mentioned that you used to go to the United States. But here, I'm just going to focus on Mexico. Well, look, I'll explain why, after all, that product ends up or will end up in the United States. Whether you sent it or your client's client did. That's why it's called a conspiracy. And here's another fact for you to learn. You got paid in dollars, right? And you used to buy it with dollars down there. You know where that currency is from, right? For your information, it's from the United States, so that money comes from the United States. So realize, it's a conspiracy. Now you have spoken and also explained in detail how the money movement is, from the United States to Mexico and currency exchanges and how it's done. That, Camilo, is laundering. And yes, also is a conspiracy. So, realize now, Camilo, here I got another lesson, because you have mentioned it, in Hernaro Garcia Luna's trial. There was no evidence, and yet he was declared guilty. Just by sayings. Well, there. You just need 3 people to say and confirm a fact to start an investigation and request an arrest warrant. It's enough for them to identify you in a picture. Can you imagine that 2 people in the United States say that you were up to no good? And would you imagine that, with all the interviews you have given, you are incriminating yourself? So that's 3 people, and all the videos out there are evidence of what you've said. More than once, because you have accepted everything you did, besides everything you boast about having done, that you used to participate into a continuous criminal enterprise. And all those actions you mentioned, like giving people a ride, bribes, all that is corruption. That you participated according to you in conflicts, that you resigned people, that you had people at your disposal, all of that, Camilo. You were helping a Telcar, just so you know. I hope you understand. But the good thing here is that you're fearless, and so you don't give a damn about what's coming. But we're not talking about that here. What we're talking about here is that I want to teach you something that perhaps you didn't know. Very well, then having said that, here I'm going to show you some other things that Camilo said, which, well, he does not betray and does not rat on enemies, he is firm and loyal. Let's go see him.
Yo no traiciono ni a mis enemigos, o sea, a mí me han dicho, cabrón, este güey te robó, ponlo. No, búscanlo ustedes. ¿Por qué? Porque no me gusta que me pongan, o sea, no traiciono ni a mi... ¿Quieres? Tú traes pedos con él, tú inviértele, tú búscalo. No porque a mí me haya chingado o algo, te voy a decir dónde vive. O sea, yo cuando busco al que a mí me chingó, lo busco yo sin pedirle a nadie. ¿Por qué? Porque no me gusta la traición.
Well, he doesn't even rat on his enemies, let alone his friends. And you know it. The classic talks of Camilo. Now let's see what he says in this next video.
¿Por qué? Porque la Marina en ese momento, ellos... pues todo lo que les iba poniendo de mis enemigos, pues les iba sirviendo a ellos.
Para dar un resultado.
Exactamente.
So, what is it, Camilo? Did you snitch or did you not? You have to agree on what you're saying to the public. To be consistent, make up your mind. So, you said you did rat on your so-called enemies, right? That's not snitching. And I understand you, if you were really doing it. From that point of view, personally, I don't see anything wrong with it. The bad part.
It's when...
You rat on your fiends. And that's the point I'm making. That's what you were doing. You used to say so much, that some are traitors and some are not. The person who introduced you to the licenciado was Chonacas, the one you said was like family to you. And you, eager to be someone recognized, what did you go to do in Culiacan? to offer, to rat on it, even though he had done nothing to you. So why did you want to screw him over? Because you're a traitor, right? What did you do after that? Did you betray the licenciado and go with the ones from Tepic, who had been allies of those from the last letter you hated so much, and who were the rivals of Sinaloa? So with all that you can see and realize the reality and truth and the kind of person Camilo truly is, everyone asked me to reveal who Camilo really was, so here it is. He's a lucant, a liar, and a traitor seeking fame, seeking recognition, and uplift the menors or the people to whom he really prays. And obviously, everyone already saw him exposing El Licenciado as a traitor, as the worst. He operates under that sayings. And thus he does it to tell young people not to get involved in that environment. That's a lie. Let's talk truth. Camilo seeks recognition and fame. Or he wants the people who he prays to be recognized and seen as heroes. Just like that. And that cannot be denied. In a nutshell, there's no one better than Adela Misha to express what Camilo says and about Camilo's life. Here you will see it in the video.
Esto que
Tengo
tú me
propiedades
dices,
que también
acabas de
rento.
decir una gran pendejada, además de toda la vida que has tenido. Gran pendejada.
I'm sorry, Camilo. I have to say it as it is, and I can't leave anything out. You went with the Gafe and told him that El Pocho walked out trough the door from Puente Grande the first time. Don't lie, Camilo. You don't know, you don't know. Don't talk about what you don't know. You also said that the time he was caught in Mazatlan, the Navy cut off the signal throughout the city because you were there. Don't lie, Camilo. No signals were jammed. That never happened. Stop making things up. Just stop lying. And Camilo, I wasn't going to say it. But just like you talk, unfortunately, most of what you say are lies. I am going to tell the truth, because my sources also told me that you proposed to El Oso to extort your own family with the Polo Loco restaurants thing. That you knew everything, all the ins and outs and where your entire family lived. That they could give them a scare. And thus be receiving a monthly amount that you were sure your family would pay. Every month that, because as soon as something about a Telcar was mentioned, they trembled because of what had happened to you in Tamaulipas. And do you remember you said it was going to be good money for you, Javi, and the Oso? But well, that's in the past now. And what do you say? That in Sinaloa, as you've mentioned, nothing bad happens? That the menors have everything under control? And that extortion, floor charges, car theft, or kidnappings are not allowed there? They don't mess with families or innocents. Let's see. Here's a video where he says something like that.
Pero tú me vas a decir a mí, me vas a decir el cartel de Sinaloa no mataba, sí mataba igual.
Pero, o sea, entre ellos mismos. No había muertes no se metían con familias, no se meten con eso. Con eso no se meten.
Es que, pero ¿a qué te refieres con traen muy bien y va muy bien Mazatlán con los hijos del Chapo?
Que no hay tanta violencia, o sea, que tienen cuidado de que no haya secuestro. A Mazatlán está prohibido meterse con el turismo. Yo le decía el otro día a unas gentes que les daba miedo ir a Mazatlán, le digo, hay muertes, pero entre el mismo narco, entre gente que se brinca las trancas y eso. Pero está prohibido, o sea, olvídense que a ustedes los paren, que les tumben un carro. Está prohibido que anden robando carros, que anden robando trailers, todo eso. Todo eso lo tienen muy bien cuidado. En Sinaloa sí hay esos códigos de no meterse con la familia. Hay unas gentes que sí lo rompen, pero hasta ahorita los señores que yo conozco, los señores que están, por ejemplo, Mazatlán lo tienen los hijos del Chapo y lo tienen muy bien. La verdad, lo tienen muy bien. Conozco más a la gente. En Sinaloa está prohibido el secuestro, está prohibida la extorsión, está prohibido el cobro de piso. Todo eso está prohibidísimo.
Y en este momento los hijos, ¿qué es lo que crees que van a hacer con toda esta ola de violencia que estamos viendo en el país? De diferentes
pero
organizaciones.
Hay mucha ola de violencia en todas partes del país, pero en Sinaloa no hay tanta violencia. Sinaloa está bien tranquilo. Mazatlán, que es el puerto número 1 ahorita ya turístico. ¿Por qué? Por el control que tienen ellos. Porque nomás que no se van a dejar agarrar, porque no se van a dejar traicionar. Pero ellos son los que cuidan que el Estado vea. Ya hicieron tregua, o sea, cuando estaban peleados ahí mismo en Sinaloa, Guasave con Culiacán, ya, o sea, hay paz, o sea, es la única manera.
Oh, Camilo, what can you say? Here, you cannot hide the sun with a finger, and make no mistake. In Sinaloa, kidnapping, extortion, nor charging for protection are allowed, nor stealing cars from people, if you are not from the Telcar. Therefore, only people who work for the organization can do it, and most do it with their boss's permission. All that you say, Camilo, is another big lie. Because every day the news shows everything that's happening. Look, check out this news that just came out. A few weeks ago, the newspaper Rio 12, the article's name is, promised us peace and gave us a big mess instead. There it talks about everything. The governor of Sinaloa says it. Here's the photo or the news. Just came out another news that 6 vehicles were stolen per day in Sinaloa. And you are going to tell me or tell the public that's not allowed? If the order comes from the bosses, that they are authorized to steal cars. Look, here is the news that just came out in March. And you know too, the thing about the 66 people who were napkid children, women. That's messing with innocent families. And it happened in Culiacan. Also in the ranches around Culiacan, and in Mazatlan too. Do not try to change the facts and invent they have order in Sinaloa and they do it for the good of society. Do not tell lies. And just so you know, I'm going to release an episode soon about a letter that was sent to me by someone who works at that organization and lives in Culiacan, where he tells us various things. And for everyone to be aware, all our audience, I'll soon pull out that letter someone from our audience sent us from there in Culiacan, and that belongs to the organization over there. I respect what you do, Camilo, really. True is because you show your face and that's it. I told you I support the message you want to give to people not to get involved in that environment because it is full of betrayals, deceptions, and that they will end badly. I support you on that, but I also have to expose the lies you tell. That's not right. Well, dear audience, this is as far as we've come. There's a lot to tell about Camilo. It's a world of information, since he has done many interviews. And the truth would take hours and hours describing every lie he said. And well, I don't have the time to do it, and I think you don't have the time to watch that kind of stuff either. So I really hope you learn something good from this episode and get to know something good about Camilo and the reality, and I hope, Camilo, you're not offended because that's not my intention. I send you greetings and wish you luck on your YouTube channel, in your business endeavors, and everything you undertake. A special shout out to you from your friend Okran. And whenever you want, you know my social media is always open for you to reach out. If you need me to explain anything or want to know something else. You know that's what we're here for, to help people get the information they don't know. Friends, we've come to the end of this episode. It was a bit long, but I think that's just how we can understand Camilo's reasons for saying so much. And also for you to know the reality. I hope you liked it, and you know I am still working to bring you more and more episodes every week. I send you a warm greeting. And don't forget to subscribe, support us, join the channel, and follow us on our social media. Remember, the only true narrative of Okran can be found here. Don't miss the next episode. It's going to be great. Greetings.